Hey everybody, welcome to Glenn's Garage. Today in the garage, we're going to be doing some painting on the E46 convertible project car. We're going to be shooting base coat, clear coat, we're going to do some wet sanding, and we're going to do a cut and polish on it. So let's get on and see how well this comes out. Okay, so what we're going to be working on today is this lower portion of the driver's door. I'm going to be touching that up and re-clear coating it. I did a little patch earlier, a small little local repair, and I didn't like how it came out, how it blended, so I'm going to do it again. You'll see the rub strip is missing there. It was removed because it was pretty damaged. I've got a replacement one that's already been painted and ready to go on, but I'm not going to put it on until after this painting is done. And what I'm going to do is show you how I do it. Yeah, I'll let you know, obviously this is not a spray booth, it's just my two-car garage, nor do I have the most optimal equipment by any means, but I've managed to get reasonable results. I've painted the bumpers, both bumpers. I've done a lot of touch-ups on the other side of the car and things like that. So it comes up pretty good, and I'll show you how I do it. But again, I am not a professional in any way, shape, or form. I'm sure there will be people who could comment and say, you're doing this wrong and doing that wrong, but I'll show you how I do it. So first step, I've just scuffed it up, sanded it down. I use 600 grit wet sandpaper, and I've just given it a good scuff. You can see where the patch was, a little area I sprayed that I didn't like. So it's all sanded, it's ready to go. I'm going to start masking it now, and then we'll be ready to shoot base coat and a clear coat on it. Okay, so I've got most of the masking off done here. Got all in behind the door jambs to make sure there's no overspray gets in on anything like that there. We're going to be covering the car with sheets. I made sure the top's up first, so it makes it easier. We've got one last piece to put on here, and I think we will have the masking done. Right, so that's basically in place. We're just going to have a sheet come down and cover all this here anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. We're masked off good where we need to be. I'll clean up the two edges here, and then we'll move on to getting the final prep for paint. Alright, so getting ready to paint. Going to paint this morning. A little cool this morning. I mean, we are out on the west coast, so it's not cold by any stretch, but it's cool. It's about freezing, but so I put a heater on just to warm this area up before I start painting. If you can see that, just one of these, I've had it on for 20 minutes or so, so I just warmed it up, and I'll use it after I paint, just bake, but just to help heat up the paint as it cures. So we'll get ready now. We're gonna do a wipe down. I ran out of degreaser, so I'm using acetone. So we're gonna do a wipe down here. Okay, so for a quick wipe down there, final wipe down, we're gonna tack it, and then we'll get ready to shoot the base coat. Okay, so we're tacked down, we're ready to go. Gonna start laying down some base coat. What I do personally, if I've got small little areas to do, I get the local auto paint supply place to just put the base coat in a rattle can. I just find it easier, so let's clean up. I don't have to clean the guns. And I'll shoot the clear with the gun. I just much rather do that on the clear coat. This turned out to have more areas that I ended up painting as I went around and tried to perfect the body. So I probably should have just bought a tin and shot it with the gun, but we are where we are, and this is pretty much the last area to do now. So rattle can it is. So we're going to lay a couple of coats of this on, let it flash off for 15-20 minutes, and then we'll get the clear ready and shoot it with the gun, compressor, etc. PPE, this is what I use. We're in a garage, but I'm in a downdraft booth or anything, so it's pretty nasty in here. So I use this. I find it works good too because with my glasses they get paint on them, so this helps with that. Obviously your choice, but I wouldn't recommend breathing this stuff in if you don't have to. I've got a little extra light here to help me. The other thing I got, you should see in the background, is a small fan there, so I'll crack the garage door open, turn that on, and it helps just evacuate some of the air and stuff and smells out of the garage, so it doesn't all go all through the house. I said I don't want the garage door open too much. It's February, it's not overly hot, it's cool, so I don't want a lot of cold air coming in, but I also want some fresh air. So we're going to lay down a couple of base coats with the rattle can, and then we'll get on. Okay, that is, smelly in here. That's 3 coats, a base coat on there now. We're gonna let that flash over, and then we'll start working on clear coat. All right, so while that's base coat's flashing off there, I just thrown the heater on for a little bit. I thought I'd show you the other part of spraying. Again, as I do it, I am not saying this is a recommendation or these are guidelines. This is purely how I'm managing to do it with the limited equipment I have and the limited investment I intend to make to be able to do some painting that looks reasonably decent when it's done. So the compressor, it's certainly nothing special. 5 gallon, 3 horsepower. I forget the CFM, but it is not what they would recommend for painting. But it does work. I mean, I have managed to get some very nice paint jobs out of it. I normally end up setting the pressure here at probably around 50 or so PSI, which is certainly a lot higher than they say to spray. Again, that's me finding from my personal setup and how I'm doing it here, that seems to give me a better spray out. I don't know. So guns, I have 4 or 5, but this is probably my favorite. Tip here is 1.4 gravity feed, basic adjustments for spray pattern and the trigger, and there's an airflow adjustment down here as well. It sprays decently. It is not an expensive gun by any stretch. It's from Canadian Tire. Anyone who's in Canada will know that brand. If not, it's, I don't know what's the equivalent of. I think it's certainly one up from like a Harbor Freight or something, but it's not a professional gun. So in terms of the clear I'm spraying, again, this just came from the auto paint place. So clear and the activator for the clear here, 4-to-1. So if you're going to go and you're going to buy this stuff, you're going to need some measuring cups so you can measure your, here we are, 4-to-1. So 4-to-1, I don't have a lot left here. I'm hoping I have enough to finish this door. So yeah, we're going to mix that up, put it in here, get the compressor running. It's a little loud, and we'll lay on 2 or 3 coats, which will give me enough that I can wet sand it out and then polish, and that's where you're going to do the finish, because I struggle to get a great finish just laid down without touching it. I don't think the equipment's quite up to it, and I'm a rank amateur. But after some diligent wet sanding and polishing, I get a really nice result, which is why I like to lay the clear down with the gun. It certainly seems to go on better, but it's also a lot thicker on there, so I do have the option of sanding now. Okay, so we're about 2 days after I painted, after I clear coated this now. I gave it enough time for the clear to harden. I did have the little heater on it for a while to help, as best I can do in here. So overall I was pretty pleased with the result. It was actually pretty good, very little orange peel, although I did have some runs that occurred down the bottom here. Anyway, so we're starting now to get it ready for polishing. So I've sanded it out with 600 grit wet sandpaper. I've done the 600 already. I've taken care of the slight runs. So we're going to go from 600 to 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000, and then it's ready for the polishing. So I'm going to carry on now with the 1,000 grit and just start sanding it, and each one takes out more scratches and gets it smoother. So there's less work for the cutting paste to do. So let's get on. So I'm using a small DuraBlock sanding block here. They're firm, but they do have a slight bit of flex to them. I quite like this. I've got a couple of them. I do have a larger one, but I kind of actually like this one. My 1,000 grit sandpaper, water with a little dish soap in it. That sort of seems to help it cut without sticking so much. And then I have a spray of water to help keep washing it down as well. So I'm just not flooding it with water because I'm in the garage here. Now if I was out in the driveway, I might just have a hose. And just nice smooth strokes. The curves, especially inside curves, are always a challenge. Try and do as much as I can with the block rather than having to use your fingers to sand. Alright, so when I've done that, what I do is I take a squeegee like this, and I just get the vast majority of the wet off, and then give it a wipe down. You can have a look and see how smooth it's getting. Keep doing that until we've done that whole process along the door, and then we'll switch to 2,000 and, like I said, 3,000. Use these foam sanding blocks, 3M, 3,000 grit, Trizact it's called. Anyway, I like these things. They're foam. I fold them up to get a really nice feel there, get a very smooth finish with them. According to the cutting compound I use, you can use it 1,200 grit and down. So in theory, at 2,000 grit, I could just compound this out. But I like to do the 3,000. Certainly makes it smoother, makes it a lot easier for the cutting compound. So I'm gonna get on with this and just finished 3,000 grit sanding, wiped it down, dried it off. We're ready to start doing compounding here, and I just want to try and show the finish we achieved here. You can see the reflection there in the paint already, in the clear coat, and this is without any polishing. So we've got a really smooth finish, nice and even. It's going to be ready to polish. It should come up really nice, at least pretty damn close to factory good, if not even slightly better, and depending on the factory, I guess. Anyway, it's ready. We're going to start compounding now. Okay, so we're all cleaned up here. We're ready to start doing the cutting compound, or buffing compound, whatever you want to call it. I use this. It came from an auto supply place. A lot of people would use 3M. They had this. I've used it on a lot of different vehicles. I've been very happy with it. It's ultra ultra cutting cream. So same type of thing. And then I've got, this is my buffer polisher that I'm using, foam pad with a texture on it, honeycomb texture on it. I don't have 5 different types of polishers. I don't have 4 or 5 different types of polishing heads. I've got a couple. The one I use for the cutting compound and one I use for polishing compound. Just don't have all the equipment like that. So this is being done with this bit of equipment. So I'm going to start, put some compound out. A lot of people dab it on here. I tend to put it on here because that's where I want it. And then dab it around a bit. Actually, I should close the door. All right, and then we're just going to start here. I've got my speed on this set on 4, and I honestly don't know what RPMs that equates to, but it seems to be a decent speed on it, and I use a reasonable bit of force on it, but I'm not leaning on it. I don't want to burn the paint, but I just want to warm it up enough that you can start to polish it. So. First glance, that's working fairly well. Put a little more compound on. Alright, so we'll stop and have a look, see what we've got here. That looks pretty nice here. I'll bring the camera in. Finish with getting here. Oh. Nice smooth finish, decent polish. It's a little hard to capture on the video camera, but it is coming up really nice here. So I'm going to carry on doing the cutting here. Okay, so compounding's been done. We're going to switch over to doing polishing now. So I'm going to change out this pad for this pad. It's a softer pad with a deeper pattern in it. I use this one for putting the polishing compound on. Swap that out. Okay, and then I just have a Mcguire's polishing compound here that I'm going to use. I've used it on other parts of the car here, and it works pretty good. This is a little thinner, so I think actually I'm going to put this on the pad. Alright, series of daubs on the pad. Do this so I can fling everywhere. That's taking out some of the swirl marks that get left from the compound. So it's doing a nice job of polishing that. So I'll carry on polishing it, and then I've got to put this rub strip back on, and I think she's done. So there we are. That's the door completed. The rub strips put on. That went through the same process because I bought a used one at the wrecking yard that was blue. So it's been refinished, painted and polished. That gives you an idea of the finish that's been achieved. The lower section, the upper is factory. Okay, so that's the door finished. I've done the same thing on a lot of other small areas on this car as part of the project. I'll show some pictures after this. I'll put in of other projects I've worked on. I've used exactly the same technique. And I guess what I'm saying is you don't necessarily need a spray booth and a massive compressor and $1,000 spray guns to achieve a decent job. Beyond decent. I've seen a lot worse come out of body shops, and I've seen worse when you watch them on TV and they close up on those car shows. So it takes work, a lot of sanding, a lot of prep, but you can achieve it with basic tools that you've got in a garage. I'm not sure you necessarily paint a car, but I guess if you did it a panel at a time, but you can achieve a lot in painting with minimum of equipment. Now, I'm not a painter, as I said at the beginning, so I wouldn't necessarily follow my technique, but in terms of proving that you can achieve a decent paint job, I think this does that. So thank you very much for watching. Check out my other videos. I continue to work on this project car, and have a great day.